afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside chilly Louisville, Kentucky. And in Maryland, my longtime friend, esteemed colleague, and basketball expert, John Webster. How you doing this afternoon, John?
Gary, I'm doing really good, man. Excuse me. Everything's going well. Hope everybody out there is doing well. You're too kind. Call me a basketball expert. I keep telling you, I barely know anything about the game, man. I keep telling you that, Gary. But
That's
hey,
why
we got
that's why you became a coach, right?
and look where it got me. I'm talking sports.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we got to give credit to our traffic cop, Mr. John Pitt. How are you, John?
Doing good, man. We got Cowboys, Eagles Sunday, and many changes in the NFL.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm still trying to keep track of all the trades, but let's just get right into it with one right in our backyard. Chase Young going to the 49ers for a bunch of draft picks or a loaf of bread, depending on who you ask. My feeling on this is that they shouldn't have done it because I still think Chase Young was playing some of his best football in a while. I mean, he was getting healthier. He was really I thought he was being effective, and I'll never understand that other than maybe trying to get ahead of free agency and getting something where you can get something now. Am I reading that right, John?
Well, I'm in the same car with you, Gary. I would not have traded Chase Young. I thought he was having a good season. I thought he was wreaking havoc along the line. I think he gets misjudged because of the injury that he had. I also think that I don't know, Gary. One of the things I did, I asked a couple people who know the game of football, is it easier to replace two ends because Montez Sweat was also traded to the Bears?
That's right. Yeah, I
Or is
forgot
it
about Sweat.
easier,
Yeah.
or is it easier to replace two tackles? Now, both the people I talked to said it's easier to replace the ends. Now, again, I would not have made the deal. What I would have done, I would have kept one end and one tackle. But again, I'm not a football guy. I just think with letting Chase Young go, I think that was going to be, I thought he was somebody you could build around. I thought he was somebody that had overcome a lot of problems with that knee surgery. You know, he had that and he had an injury in the preseason. I just really thought he was playing good ball, man. And I just, going to San Francisco, I think that's going to be great with him on one end, Joey Bosa on the other end. You know, I think they're going to be all right in San Francisco. They're in a little slump right now, 3-game slump, but I think I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. Speaking of that slump, John, I think everybody is starting to question the 49ers worthiness as the NFC standard bearer. Um, I don't know about that. I think every team kind of hits a lull during the season. They don't look particularly good. For that matter, I think Kansas City is going through the same thing in the AFC, with a head scratching loss, for the lack of a better term. I think in a 49ers case, I think they just took their eye off the ball. I think they were starting to buy into some of their own headlines and really believe that they were better than they are. Do I think they're still like again, the NFC standard bearer? Probably. But they're realizing now teams are coming for them. It's like my man Omar on The Wire. He said, you best come for the king, or you come for the king, you best not miss. Rather, and I think some teams are going for them and finding, yeah, they're pretty vulnerable because I feel like San Francisco probably lost more of those games than the teams actually won because they were winnable games for the 49ers. And maybe they had to do something, maybe they saw something in those losses where they felt like they had to make that kind of trade. I agree with you. I think it does bolster that front line, and for giving up future picks. The upside for Washington is next year's draft. They better find something, because they've got a ton of picks. There are some good players coming out in this draft. You've got quarterbacks, you've got linemen, you've got skill players, you've got receivers. So I really don't want to hear any excuses from them that, well, we didn't have draft picks. Well, you got them now, and you've got some guys you could probably play at some point this season as well. Not starters, but you can put them in a rotation.
Well, they got some draft picks both ways for Sweat and for Chase Young. Some people say they've already wrapped up this season. I have still the belief Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, every season finds a way to run into a win streak right about now. And it's never failed. He's always had a 4 or 5 game run every year. I think this will be the same this year.
It better be, if it's going to save his job.
Well, that's a whole nother story for another day, another day if it's going to save his job. But what I will say, I'm happy for Chase Young. I'm happy for Montez Sweat. They get to go to a different place. Well, Sweat's going to the Bears, so he's maybe in for a little bit of a struggle, but you never know. Chase Young in San Francisco. But just concentrating on what's there with this Washington Commander team right now, you still have to find a way for this defense to cut down on the big plays. You got to figure out a way what you're going to do with your secondary. Now what they're going to do is go with what's the guy's name? Tui, or I can't even think of the kid's name. That's going to be on the end instead of Sweat and Chase Young. So they'll do that. You'll still have your Deron Payne and your John Allen in the middle as your tackles. On the offensive side, this past week, they lost to Philadelphia. They played well for about 40 minutes of the game. No, wait a minute. Was it 15 minutes? I'm thinking high school, 15 minutes. So they played well.
Overtime game, right?
Yeah, it wasn't overtime. They lost 38-31 in regulation. But the thing that I saw, the enemy made adjustments with the passing game. There were more short passes, more slants. The offensive line looked a lot better. The thing that I still say with this team, their strong suit is running the ball, and they're still passing too much for me. I want to get the ball in Robinson's hands. I want to eat that clock up because the defense still has problems. You got New England this week. That's going to be a fight both ways. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But then they got Miami coming up, and Miami is a serious track meet team. So they gotta think about what they got to do. I mean, they got the Jets still coming up on this season. Then you got Dallas 2 more times. You got the Giants another time. It's not an easy schedule they're getting ready to go on, Gary. So they got, I still think they're going to go on a win streak, but there's still work to be done. Next season will take care of itself after the end of this season. I'm still sitting in that car by myself, Gary. I'm still thinking they can make something happen for this year, but we'll see.
I give you credit for being the eternal optimist about this team. I can't say that you're wrong. It's just, why does it always have to come to a point where, they have to hit rock bottom before they climb themselves out? I'm not talking about, say, just hitting a wall. This team, I mean, what are you thinking about? What is it? 4 losses or 5 losses in 6 games. They've given up at least 30 points every time. The easy answer seems to be shore up that daggone defense. But to your point about the shorter passes, the reason, and again, I just had to really kind of catch up through replays on that game. But the thing I liked about that kind of strategy is that it forces Hal to get the ball out of his hands quicker. It forces all of their quarterbacks really to get the ball out of their hands quicker. And yeah, because my complaint is that he was holding the ball too long, and that's probably why he was getting creamed so much too. And teams knew that. Again, what is that window, John? It's like you've got 2 seconds basically to make a decision and know where you're going to go. You can't wait unless you're Lamar Jackson and can extend the play when all your options run out. And even now, you see how he's playing right now. He's getting rid of the ball quicker. He's getting it to the right guys. It seems as though he's recognizing things a lot quicker now, and that's why he's thriving. You got to get Hal to that point as well. Short passes is a good way to start.
Yeah. And this is going to be a difficult challenge this week for Sam Howell. They're playing New England. New England's defense is one that Belichick is known for switching up different coverages and different rush packages and everything and confusing young quarterbacks. So this is going to be a really good test for him this week. Even though New England is struggling, their defense still plays reasonably well.
Yeah. So let's talk about those Dallas Cowboys. Are they back?
Well, our dear friend, John Pitt, says they're back. Now they play Philadelphia this week. They beat the Rams this past weekend, 43-20. They're looking good. They're looking good. I can't take anything away from them. But now you will find out more as they start playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. They got to play them twice. You'll start finding out more about them. They didn't make any moves during with the trade deadline, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to go with what they have. Pollard in the backfield. They got CeeDee Lamb as a receiver, and Brandon Stokes on the other side, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to go with what they have. I know Pitt thinks that they're getting ready to go through Brandon Cooks. Thank you, John. Brandon Cooks. As they go through, I know Pitt thinks that they're getting ready to make this run to the Super Bowl and put another Super Bowl in Cowboy Land, or whatever you call that place, Jerry World or whatever.
Jerry World.
Yeah, Jerry. But seeing is believing for me, Gary. Philadelphia is a good team. I still say they won't win the NFC East. So that means it will be either the Cowboys or the Commanders, or can't be the Giants. But yeah, exactly.
It won't be the Commanders. I still think it's the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Yeah, but I still say even if the Eagles do not win the NFC East, they're better to move forward this year than they were last year.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about those Giants, the team that you refer to as New York's JV team. I don't know what to make of the Giants sometimes, just like I don't know what to make of the other team in New York City, the Jets. But I'll just say it like this. They disappointed me. That's the team that I thought could really make some noise, and they're sitting at 2-6 in the NFC East basement, just a game behind the Washington football team. I really can't put my finger on any one thing but the Giants. And if you got anything, look, just tell me, because again, I'm really at a loss to try to understand what that team is right now.
Well, they're using a third string quarterback right now. Tyrod Taylor got hurt this past Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was rough. Them playing the Jets. I think the final score was 13-10. Jets won in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. The Giants are it's rough to watch. When they beat the Commanders 2 weeks ago, that was rough to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Dable is coaching this year more so not to lose the game as opposed to trying to win the game. He had situations. I guess he didn't have any confidence in the quarterback, and they had situations. It was 2nd and 21, 3rd and 25, and he's throwing screen passes to Shaquan Barkley. That's as far as the guy would, and he didn't even look downfield. It was a screen pass. Matter of fact, the Jets defense zoned in on just looking for the short pass. The guy had no ability. This is how crazy it was, Gary. The Giants had -9 yards passing on Sunday. Let me say that again for you, Gary.
Yeah.
The Giants had -9 yards passing. You know, it's rough. And I don't think bringing Daniel Jones back is going to make it any better. That's not the answer either. So,
Yeah. Again, it's like it's hard for me to pin it on any one thing of the quarterbacking, the coaching, the defense. I think I can put it on the coaching because some of the play calling that almost looked like it almost reminded me of a Joe Pisarcik game in a sense that you're that close to clinching a game and then you kind of give it away. Of course, the Miami Hurricanes, pretty much ripped that one and took the pressure off Joe Pisarcik. But you know, I listened to that game on Sunday, and the announcers, the Jets announcers in particular, were just kind of incredulous at some of the play calling. I mean, they really felt like the Jets got a package from Amazon that they shouldn't have received, and then they ended up getting to keep it, which they did, and won it in overtime. But we're talking about the Giants here, so let's just focus on them. There's something with that team. I don't know whether it's focus. I can't say it's chemistry. I think it's just plain focus. Daboll he's got to rein this team in some way. He's got to come up. He's got to show confidence in some aspect of his game, and maybe that's the problem offensively. You know about Saquon Barkley. You're going to kill him. Of course, you've already killed your $1 million guy in a sense. In Jones, your big contract guy. And here's Barkley, coming back from injury, and he's having to do more, and he's banged up. And I just don't know what if Daboll knows what to do with that, whether to build depth, whether to shift the game elsewhere. But he's got to do something because he's not going to have anybody left if they're going to try to even get to 500 at this point.
It's a rough thing. Like I said, Gary, they're rough to watch. They don't have a real good offense. They struggle to be consistent on defense. Their quarterback now is down to the third string. Even their punter is not consistent because that's part of the reason why the Jets ended up getting the final score. The punter punted the ball like 20 yards or something like that. So,
yeah,
it's just, I'll put it in a nutshell for you. At the end of the day, in the NFC, it's still Philadelphia, Dallas, and San Francisco, as far as I'm concerned, and not necessarily in that order. I think San Francisco.
No Detroit Lions. I mean, I got to jump in there. No Detroit Lions, John.
Not until you. You gotta bring it when you gotta bring it. They could have a chance to bring it against the Ravens and lost terribly. So you got to be consistent. A new kid on the block does. San Francisco has not been the same since they beat Dallas. I think they started believing their press clippings. The most consistent team you have so far this year, honestly, in the NFC has been Philadelphia. They are somewhat inconsistent sometimes. Like they lost to the Jets. Dallas is, John doesn't want to hear this, but Dallas is up and down. They lose to the 49ers, but you beat the Chargers. You blow out the Rams, but then who else did they lose to? They lost somebody else. I can't even think who else they lost to. They got 2 losses on their schedule, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so that's
again,
what I see.
I I
Okay,
think that.
Kevin, thank you, John Pitt again. The Cardinals. So
Oh,
you blow out the Giants the first game of the season. What was that, 40-0? Then you come back and you lose to the Cardinals, who are really not that good this year. You beat the Rams, but then you lose to the 49ers, which is no shame to lose to the 49ers, but you got to be consistent, Gary. You got to be consistent, and if you want to walk on the same street as the big dogs, then you got to bring it all the time.
yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. Well, moving down a level, John, we have the first college football rankings that came out on Tuesday night. Ohio State's number 1, Georgia's number 2, Michigan number 3, Florida State number 4. Is that the way it should shake out, or do you think it should be another way?
Um, I'll say this: Ohio State, yes. Um, number 2 was Georgia, right? That's
Yeah,
yes. Florida State at 4 for right now. That's yes. With the information I am getting by the minute, by the day, by the hour about Michigan right now, and as much as I love Coach Kaki, they aren't going to stay number 3, Gary. If the way this thing is playing out,
yeah.
that's
It
what I
wouldn't.
see.
It really wouldn't shock me if they drop to 4 rather, no matter what they do, because just because of this cloud of the investigation, hanging over them. In
Gary,
terms of,
I didn't mean to cut you off, Gary. I'll take it a step further. I wouldn't be surprised to see them drop out of the top 10 because I think either NCAA is going to come at them before this playoff, or the Big Ten is going to come at them. Somebody's coming after them because each day more and more is coming out about this guy. What's his name? Stallion, and being on the sideline at different games. More and more things are coming out. Whether it's true or not true, you got a smoking gun, and they want something to be done about it. Love Coach Kaki. I want them to get the championship, but with all this going on, I think they're going to put a stop to Michigan. That's what I think is going to happen.
yeah,
And then when they put a stop to Michigan, I think even, you know what? I'm not even going to say Washington. I'm going to say Oregon. Because after the loss to Washington, Oregon has played better. So I'll say
yeah,
Oregon. And this
yeah.
Florida State, I love the Florida State Bobby Bowden teams.
Even though he's
I
not
just
there, but
don't know. I just don't know. Does Norvell have them right? Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing?
yeah. Well, okay. As a ACC guy here, I'm going to say yes because they are playing the schedule that they have in front of them.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not going to. Okay, let's look at it this way. Florida State's in first place. The team I cover, Louisville, is in second place. Virginia Tech is third. Tech and Louisville play on Saturday, a game for second place implications that none of us saw coming. Why? Because both of them were picked 8th and 11th, respectively, preseason. Neither one of those teams, Louisville does not play Florida State this year. They don't play Clemson this year. And if there was ever a year they could get Clemson, they probably would have been this year, just because of how they're playing and what's going on at Clemson. But I'll say it like this: I do think Florida State is a good team. I don't think, and I'll say again, playing the schedule and winning some of the games that they've won. Remember, they beat LSU early in the season. That was an impressive win for them in a lot of ways, and I think that win was really no fluke, because I think they beat a very good LSU team with Jaden Daniels. They were able to throw the ball. They were able to defend. So I think that one was impressive. And then they go to Clemson and they win there. So I can't really fault them for that. But Ohio State and Georgia, and this is where I'm going to kind of focus things. Strength of schedule is why Ohio State is number one at this point. I do think as time goes on, and Georgia has the tougher road. I wrote about this yesterday, where they've got an SEC gauntlet starting with starting with Missouri on Saturday. I think they've got Ole Miss, and oh man, I'm trying to remember who else they have now in that division. Oh no, they've got Tennessee. Yeah, so you're talking about Missouri, Tennessee, and I think Ole Miss before they get to Georgia Tech at the end of the season. So you're talking about three SEC games. Two of those teams are ranked. That's a pretty tough gauntlet. Now, and I think that'll answer some of the questions that were out there on Tuesday night about strength of schedule, because the Bulldogs schedule was considered 100th versus Ohio State, which was something like 12th. I know it was much, much higher. So I think the next couple of weeks will probably determine that the shuffling order, because I think as Ohio State, and you know how much I love Ohio State, but as they get deeper into that Big Ten schedule, it's going to be more of a challenge. And of course, they got to play Coach Kaki in a few weeks. So that's one. I think, I still think Michigan is the better team in that conference right now, NCAA investigation or not. Now, in terms of Michigan, I'm going to add this. I wouldn't worry about Michigan being slammed with anything right now, because you know how the NCAA works, slowly with things like this. There's so much out there. I don't think they know what to do with it. And just looking at some of the investigations that they've had, with or without the independent review panel, that basically goes away this year, that it's still that's something. Time is more on Michigan's side, and unless there's some smoking gun, and even with a smoking gun, the NCAA is going to break that gun down in pieces and clean the barrel, look, make sure that the chamber's empty, make sure that they go through everything before they hit them. I think by the time this is over, Coach Kaki will be somewhere else. So
let me
I
ask
don't
you
think
this
we
question,
really have
Gary.
anything to worry about just now.
Let me ask you this question, Gary. And I hope you're right, because I would love to see Coach Kaki and the Michigan Wolverines in the playoff. I hope you're right. But is it possible that the Big Ten can act separately from the NCAA, have their own investigation, and throw some penalties at Michigan themselves?
Oh yeah, it's definitely possible. That's the thing about some of
Would
the.
the NCAA let it happen?
Probably, yeah. Because I do think in a lot of cases, the conferences still have some autonomy. For the NCAA, I think they're looking more at the broader picture, as opposed to, say, just sheer competition. And even the Big Ten I think they're going to be very meticulous, because and remember, we are in a litigious age, and I think you could hear threats about lawsuits or whatever. They're going to fight it tooth and nail, whatever they decide to come up with. But the big thing, John, with this, and I'd say almost like in a court of law, you're talking about due process. You're talking about due diligence. They have to do their due diligence. I know it seems like every time you turn around, there's some new allegation, and as a media person, I'll say it don't look good, but what you see is not necessarily what's there. You have to dig deeper, and maybe because of social media and television, yes, I'm going to blame television for this, is that it's more of a rush to get information out there as opposed to understanding what it means. So for Michigan, as bad as it looks right now, I still think you have to wait and see how it plays out. This might not be, it might not be in the next 6 months. I'd be really shocked if it's decided in the next year. In any event, I think what you said before might be true, that by the time they figure it all out, Coach Kaki will probably be somewhere else, possibly in the NFL, and in the school's going to have to deal with what he has left behind.
Well, like I said, Gary, I hope you're right. I hope nothing comes out about this right now. But the thing that I see, I don't see a university really backing Harbaugh. That's what I don't see right now. And I also see a rush to judgment of the other teams who want to go after Michigan, in particular, want to go after Harbaugh because they don't like Harbaugh. That's what I see, and that's what concerns me about this rush to judgment. I don't disagree with you. And matter of fact, a lot of these times I rely on you because you are a part of the media and you understand a lot better than I do. But as I sit and I look at this, I just really think the Big Ten is going to try to act separately. There's no doubt in my mind that the NCAA wants to slow walk this and not even hear anything about this until in 2024, after the playoff, after the championship. There's no doubt in my mind. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you on that one. But again, see, the NCAA's problem is that they're in a position now where their relevance is really in question. Partly, mostly because of NIL, mostly because with all of this conference realignment and that it's given more power to the individual conferences and taking it away from them, that they're trying to figure out a way to make themselves more relevant, as excuse me, as they often have in a lot of these cases. The problem with the Big Ten, and problem, let me rephrase that. The challenge for the Big Ten is just not dropping the ball, much like they did with delaying the season during the COVID year, or canceling the season like they did with the COVID year. That was a bad look for them. So I think anything that they do, they're going to really have to talk to the members, really talk to membership, and not and take it out of one person's hands. As far as Harbaugh and the Michigan administration, well, as you know, as we've said before, Harbaugh is a great coach, but he's also a polarizing coach. He wants control, much the way that one of his predecessors by the name of Shem Beckler did. Wanted to let them know who's in charge, and he doesn't want to be messed with. Do I think to me, it's a power struggle. I do think that he is probably out of there, just like you said. I can't really base it on anything other than say just kind of reading the landscape of what's out there for him and whether it's beneficial for him to stay in Ann Arbor or go to the NFL or go to another program. So we'll have to see on that. But the Big Ten, they better get all their ducks in a row before they decide, because again, that's one of those situations where you come after a school, you best not miss.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen, Gary. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So, John, last night we saw the end of the World Series. The former Washington Senators team that moved to Texas 52 years ago, rather, finally won a World Series. I don't know how I feel about that from a fan standpoint. I'm happy for them because I like to see teams. I like to see teams really finish the job when they have a chance. If you're dominant, I want to see it pay off with something. And as you said before the playoffs, that's a team of professional hitters, not just guys who get play baseball, but those guys just flat know how to hit, and they know how to hit when it's time to hit. And watching that game last night, as it got into the fifth inning, actually when it got into the sixth inning, they were being no hit for six innings, but Arizona could not take advantage. So then you get to the seventh, and they get one run, and I said, well, yeah, and they actually had the bases loaded too. That I said once they got one run, you could just see the chum floating around in the water, and the Sharks were going to jump on it. And that ninth inning was textbook Texas Rangers, a team that just had great pitching at the right time and some hellacious hitting, for lack of a better term. And that's even without Garcia, with him injured. And you're also talking about without Max Scherzer, who, I mean, both of them announced that they were done pretty much after game three. Well, game three when they both got hurt, and you're thinking, well, this could go 7 games. It's like they were not going to let that happen because they've just got some hitters.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Congratulations goes out to the Texas Rangers. Great team. I got to see too much of them earlier in the playoffs, but they are
But
absolutely
you called
unbelievable.
it though, John. You called it with the Rangers. You said that was the most dangerous team in the playoff field, particularly in the American League.
They're tough. And think about this, Gary. They played 11 games on the road this postseason. They were 11-0 on the road.
Yeah, that's incredible. That to me, that's just absolutely incredible.
And
And to go,
Corey Seager looks like, I'm sorry, Gary, I'll cut you off. I'm sorry.
oh no, you go ahead. Yeah, because you're about to mention my man Maury Siegel.
Corey Seager
Oh,
looked
Corey
like,
Siegel. I thought you said Maury Siegel used to write for the old Star. I thought you were going to quote him, but
but
yeah,
Corey
sorry
Seager,
about that.
he MVP and looked like a brand new Reggie Jackson out there. Matter of fact, they showed the stats for both of them. Both of them have 19 home runs or 18 home runs, about the same RBI total. I mean, that Mr. October, the new Mr. October, and Nathan Eovaldi pitched 5 times in the playoffs. I think he was 5-0, 4-0, something like that.
Yeah,
And he would get in a
and
jam and
quality
still,
starts too,
yeah.
John.
And he would
Really.
get out of a jam every game, every time he pitched. He would, he knows how to work himself out of things. And hey, I got nothing but congratulations for the Texas Rangers, and
Yeah.
Arizona Diamondbacks had a good season, came up short, but the Rangers, oh my goodness, Evan Carter, Eraldis Garcia, Corey Seager, Nathan Eovaldi, Max Scherzer, oh my goodness, Jonah Heim. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Bochy, I guess he'll come back next year. I guess he will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He probably should. Yeah. He probably will. And I think you mentioned probably the key component about having a good manager to put it together because I feel like Bruce Bochy, um, Joe Torre, Dusty Baker, um, gosh, and he just retired as the Indians manager. And yeah,
Terry Francona.
yeah, Terry Francona are probably the only managers out there that you can give them a lump of clay and they can build Michelangelo, build a statue out of it into Michelangelo, really really quickly, and they've proven that. Dusty walked into maybe an easier situation in Houston with really a powerhouse team. And but he got them out of a scandal. He got them out of, I think, whatever was in their head, and he got them out of losing some players to free agency. But with what Bochy did with a team that had lost 196 games over the previous 2 years rather, and do that, just getting them to the playoffs was impressive enough. Now, remember, this was a team that started off pretty hot. Then they kind of fell back, and Houston found its game, and it became kind of a back and forth. And then it seemed like it was Houston's World Series to lose, but they just got beat by a team that stumbled into the playoffs in a sense, but then found themselves right away. It helps when you have good hitting. Picking up Scherzer at the trade deadline was another huge move because again, you didn't need him to be Cy Young Scherzer. You needed him to be get me 3 or 4 innings Scherzer, much like he was in Washington when they won the World Series 4 years ago this week.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't put in any more words, man. They are a tremendous team. Congratulations to them. And I hope to not see them too often next season being a Baltimore Oriole fan.
Yeah, well, note to Baltimore and Philadelphia that if you look at how the Texas Rangers, much like the Orioles turned it around in one year, that you look at how they did it with pitching, middle relief. And again, remember last night they didn't even really need middle relief. It's like if they got Evaldi to the seventh inning, which they did, without any kind of major damage, that's when you go to basically your setup guy and then your closer, and he worked that perfectly. But again, that ninth inning when they again they score runs in bunches, and that's the thing that was fun to watch with them this season. Well, that does it for us for this week. This is kind of an abbreviated edition. John, we've got college basketball coming up. By the time we meet next, it will have started up in earnest on Monday night. I can't wait, even though it's going to create a very busy month for me here in Kentucky, with the number 15 Wildcats and women, and Louisville trying to figure out how not to lose to a Division II team. But there in Maryland, you got the Terrapins hopefully trying to do something. I can't wait to see what we talk about next time.
It's going to be exciting, Gary. Like you said, college basketball will be back in swing by the time we talk again next week. And we'll have more to talk about with football. I'm quite sure the Commanders will do something or not do something that we can talk about next week.
Yep.
And there's a little,
yeah. And the in-season tournament too. The in-season NBA tournament starts.
And there's a little game next week between two teams called the Eagles and the Cowboys. Who do you think John Pitt's rooting for?
Well, come on. With John, it's a matter of how much the Cowboys win by in his mind. And I can't say he's wrong.
Hey, thank y'all for joining us. Had another great show. Watch some football, watch some basketball. Baseball's over. Watch some soccer, watch some hockey. But whatever you do, watch some sports and come back and see us again real soon. Take care.